Good evening. I'm Landon with Mermaid Press. On this hot night, I want to share with you why we need to be training at night. All right, and go over some just common misconceptions about some training. All right, I want to gear this towards some people who are carrying and a little more advanced, but I do want to provide a good starting space. Darkness. Okay, I've got my handy dandy notes. We're going to talk about some things. Darkness is the partial or total absence of light. Addendum. Also, wickedness or evil is what darkness can possibly stand for. We all know this. The absence of light. All right. This is something that people have been at war with since day one. We have evolutionary traits that have taught us to fear the dark. A lot of us have actual experience about why we need to fear the dark and just the fear of the unknown. Most children are just afraid of the dark because they fill that void with monsters, right? They fill that void with the scariest thing possible. And if you are in the dark for too long, you can also experience hallucinations, depression, anxiety due to the lack of stimuli. All right. Us as humans, we rely on the sun for many things, and it's not just light. We tell time. We establish sleeping patterns. We establish work patterns, life patterns. If you go back in time, as far back as you want, your day started when the sun came up and your day ended when the sun left, because that's what you had to work with, right? You couldn't stoke a fire and plow a field at night. Just wasn't economically practical or possible for a lot of people. Also in history, I just want to go back to when people used nighttime as a weapon. All right. Battle of Thermopylae, the Spartans tried to infiltrate a camp at night to try to assassinate Xerxes. Watch the movie 300. It's not in there. This particular thing isn't in there, but something I Googled, something that came up. Medieval battles were typically not fought at night. Medieval sieges were typically fought day and night. December 25th, 1776, at 6 p.m., George Washington set off with the Continental Army across the Delaware River, the famous painting where he's on the boat. Troops were still moving across the river until 3 a.m. the next morning on the 26th. That's a pretty big deal. Also, there were no deaths recorded during the movement. Nobody fell out of a boat and drowned. Nobody froze to death. Pretty remarkable given the time and the circumstances. During most of that time, people just had fire for light, clearly. All right. They had stationary fires, torches. Torches weren't a super common thing, even though they did exist. Most people had quick lights, which are like tiny little temporary candles that you would use to like walk across the house. And, actual candles. The first street lights, the gas lamps, didn't come in until 1807. The first electric street lights were in 1879. Also, just make a list of the best fighters I could find in a short Google. The Japanese during World War II. Germanic tribes. Apparently, the Germanic tribes defeated at the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. Defeated a Roman army through a couple nights, and the army was entrenched and everything. In modern times, Special Operations Air or SOAR, they get Navy SEALs and Rangers and everybody to where they need to go by air. Apparently, they're really they train almost exclusively for night operations. So we aren't military, right? So we're gonna break it down. Do you have a flashlight in your pocket? This is a Streamlight Micro Light. They're rechargeable. It's got 2 settings I like. Nice light. It's good enough. It's better than no light. In modern times, there's street lights everywhere. unless you're in a very remote area, there is some light. That is just kind of the nature of civilization right now. You've seen the maps of or the pictures of the Earth at night, right? And you see the big cities and the highways and whatnot. We bring light with us everywhere we go. Every cell phone has a flashlight now. I have a keychain flashlight. I've got a little flashlight in my pocket. Headlamps. I've got one hanging on the wall here. I've got light out here in my shed. I've got headlights on my truck. There is a lot that we do through technology now that our predecessors really didn't have access to. So, how did these armies become so good at moving in the dark, fighting in the dark, and why is it today? Well, a lot of people would say, well, it's night vision. Clearly, today, I mean, night vision. Yeah, but having used night vision, I will tell you, you have to practice. You have to make sure you get those magazine changes and make sure you have to know how to get something out of a pocket even or read a map. You have to practice these things. And if you don't have the proper basis in the skills during hours of daylight, you will not perform when you have the lack of stimulus and the disorientation that comes with total black darkness. That is just not, you're not setting yourself up for success if you're just having a barely used skill trying to be used in total darkness, right? For whatever reason, either trying to be hidden, you don't have light, or anything like that. I want to challenge kind of everybody, okay? Do what you do in normal everyday life. If you're working a lathe or something, I don't want you to do this, but let's say, loading your handgun, loading your rifle, loading a shotgun. Get whatever stuff you need on and shut your eyes and then do it. That if you have never done it before, right? If you have to look at everything you're doing and using not only sight but your hand-eye coordination to do things, and then you lose the hand-eye part where it's just hand and muscle memory, can you do it? And can you do it efficiently? Are you dropping stuff? Right? If you're like anything like me, you're not very coordinated. So you have to practice these things in order to be good at it. I know a lot of this is common sense. I want really good night fighters because it's half of all time, right? Is at night. So out of 365 days, there will be 365 nights. That is just a fact. So if you're only planning on doing things during the day, fine. I hope you live in a place where there's perpetual sunlight. I operate at night a lot, all right? For work, just everyday life. I'm up right now. It's really late. I have a flashlight to just get around my yard. I might not need it, but it's nice if I hear something, I can shine it off in the distance and look at it. Having a flashlight outside of a light on your gun is I can find my keys with this. All right, I don't have to point my gun at everything to go find stuff. So practical uses for this, also safety and just general. If I can't have a gun, if I'm in a place I can't bring my weapon, then if there's a bad guy popping around a corner, a little bit of light. I can see what he looks like, see if there's anything in his hands, and he knows I've seen him, and he can't see through my light. Okay, just a little. Striking tool, whatever. We're not getting into that. We're getting into just the light. So I practice a lot at night. I practice a lot of movement at night. I do a lot of things in the dark. And if you don't do that, that was terrifying. Don't know what made that sound. Good thing I've got a flashlight. Keep making noise too. Do yourself a favor, get a little flashlight, mess around. Okay. Try starting a fire at night. That's a good one. Try starting a fire with a candle, right? Yes, you will have fire with you, but you have to prepare things with that little light. All right, moving it around and finding the orientation to where you can actually see. And if it's a little breezy, you're going to have some movement in the light. So challenge yourself. Start practicing at night, training at night. I'm usually on a soapbox about nighttime hours. I figured it was time I do a video about it. So do yourself a favor, find out what's killing you, kick its ass, hug your families, stay safe.